Good morning and welcome back to Gaming with ADHD, where it is yet another diving deep into Eberron, where today me and Seraphis are going to be talking about races and classes for Eberron in Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition. Man, I really probably should script this, so that our intros don't suck.
No, they can stay sucking. It's okay.
They can stay sucking. Okay. Anyways, but yes. So, for those of you who are new here, this is actually a live stream. So, if you are catching this on the replay, please don't run away yet. We're going to banter for a couple of minutes, wait for everyone to get in here. But yeah. So today we're going to be looking at the races.
Brian,
what?
How do people know we're live? Because we said penis.
I'm trying to keep this professional. See, folks, this is what happens when you bring an Australian into your live stream. They think that just because they're imaginary, they can make up, and say whatever words they want on a live stream. Anyways,
it's worked for me so far.
It's worked for you so far. Anyhow, so yeah, so with where did that go? Oh, there it is. Anyways, so yeah, so it's been an interesting week reading through these couple of chapters. How well did you do on your homework?
Oh, well, I probably went through the following chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, but I pretty much had such a terrible night last night that I don't remember anything. So it's basically like I didn't do anything at all. So screw it. I'm going to be reading this like I haven't read it before, even though I'm actively reading, at the very least, these next 2 chapters pretty much every fortnight. So
well, I read them a couple of months ago when we started talking about this. I reread them in the last couple of days, but even then, man, sometimes textbook is just it is just rough to get through. So, all right. So one other thing that I will mention before we get into this. Actually, I need to. Sometimes, folks, Cobra invades your desk, and it just causes all sorts of problems. So, but I do want to show this off. There we go. All right. So this is a miniature that I 3D printed and have mostly painted. Trust me, folks, it's going to finish up here soon. But essentially, it is a a shard forged with what, Seraphis? Because you're the one that described it.
Okay, so if we're being accurate to Eberron, it's not a gun because guns don't actually exist in Eberron. That'd be completely useless. So it's a staff with a custom grip, disintegrate, a customized monocled Kenneth goggles for the scope, and it's charged with disintegrate.
Okay. So what I'm going to do, just for fun, because I keep finding miniatures and stuff that I like printing and I like painting, even though I may not necessarily have a use for it myself. So what I'm going to do is every week we are also going to be doing a small giveaway, basically a miniature that I painted, for the show. And it is going to be open to anybody that is watching the show and anybody that is signed up as a member on the channel. Just so you're aware, memberships on the channel, it's $2. I don't do a whole lot of member exclusive content yet. we're gonna figure out some stuff with these live streams, and so, but it's $2. It's basically just a tip jar, and also for every month that I have 10 members, I do a membership giveaway where I will let you pick a miniature and paint it up, so you don't have to just take whatever I offer. So, anyways, so there is that. All right. At this point, it's been a few minutes. I think we are good to get started. Are you good to get started?
I mean, probably.
Probably. Okay. Well, then let's get into this, folks.
I'm helpful and good like that.
All right. So we are finally getting into the actual meat of the book, which, just like every other Dungeons and Dragons book that does kind of annoy me, it just dumps you right into character creation. I will admit, I did like that we had that introduction page, and so that was nice to at least give us that hook into why we're playing in Eberron. But we're going to go ahead and get started with the characters. All right. So the people of Eberron make up a rich tapestry of races, including all the common races detailed in the player's handbook. Now, keep in mind, folks, we are talking about Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. So if you're going to use this, you want to make sure you pick up the appropriate player's handbook. And 4 new common races unique to this world that can be used in any D&D campaign. Each race has its own flavor and style, filling the various roles found in the highly magical societies of Eberron. This chapter offers a brief treatment of how each common race in the player's handbook differs from that description in an Eberron campaign. If not otherwise indicated here, use the material from the player's handbook when playing a common race. The 4 new races presented in this chapter are Changelings, a race that has evolved from the mixing of doppelgangers and humans, granting them a limited ability to alter their forms. Kalashtar, a blending of alien mind and human flesh who are masters of mental powers. Shifters, the descendants of lycanthropes, able to manifest bestial characteristics for short periods of times. Warforged, sentient constructs built to fight in the last war, now seeking to find a place in the uneasy peace that infuses the world. All right, now, as is typical for Dungeons & Dragons 3rd edition, there are also ability adjustments and a favored class for each race. So, as you can see here, Changeling, there's no ability adjustments, but they are favored as rogues, obviously. Kalashtar essentially are humans, so you don't get any ability adjustments there either, but their favored class is a Scion. Now, one thing you're going to want to keep in mind is that does require the use of the expanded Psionics handbook. If you don't have that, we'll get into that. You'll see when we talk about the Kalashtar. The Shifter has a +2 dexterity, but then -2 intelligence and -2 charisma. Correct me if I'm wrong. Normally for the basic races, it's usually 1 +2 bonus and then a 1 -2 penalty, correct?
Yes, but most other races can't manifest natural weapons and things like that.
I understand. I just wanted to point that out because also folks do keep in mind that all of these races actually have some extra bonuses and abilities that we'll talk about when we look at those races. So they do hit you with a couple of penalties, which do make sense. You'll see why. Let's see. All right. So Shifter's favorite class is the Ranger. Warforged get a +2 Constitution, -2 Wisdom, -2 Charisma. Again, it'll make sense when we go through it. And their favored class is Fighter. So
really, the constructs built as soldiers during the last war, their favorite class is Fighter.
I know, it's kind of strange. Why would they do that? Who knows? All right. We then have some art for our humans. this has never been my favorite piece of art from Eberron. Something just seems a little too weird.
It's rather ugly. I mean, my personal opinion, it's rather ugly and reminiscent of the artwork that they put in the Faerun Forgotten Realms books.
Yeah, I mean, it was all contemporary at the time, so they were probably pulling the same artists. I don't know, just this one.
Yeah, but
I don't
then
know.
you got Wayne Reynolds artwork for all the front covers. And it's
that's true.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying all the art is bad. I'm saying this one
yeah.
just throws it off, and the color palette is just weird. Like all of the skin just looks wrong. So
it's kind of got like a grayish
tone
to it.
Yeah, very much. Anyways, all right. So and then we've got one of our changelings here, but real quick, let's talk about humans. So humans are relatively
everyone knows humans.
Well, but they're
Most
still
of us are.
I mean, it's debatable at times. So humans, a relatively young race, are the dominant race of Eberron. Human lands. Human culture was born on the continent of Sarlona, with the first settlers sailing from Sarlona's western coast to the region of Corvair, now called the Lazar Principalities. From there, they spread across the continent of Corvair, disrupting the placid elven empire of Arenal and leaving ruined goblin kingdoms in their wake. Always humans, just ruining everything. With the arrival of the Inspired in Sarlona, human dominance on that continent came to an end. The humans of Corvair feel no particular connection to their ancestral homeland. Indeed, most don't even realize their ancestors came from that distant land. Dragon marks. Humans control many of the dragon-marked houses. House Cannith carries the mark of making and has a lock on the trades of repair and manufacturing. House Orion carries the mark of passage, dominating the courier, shipping, and transportation trades. House Deneth? I always said Deneth.
I said Deneth. But then again, I say Kalishtar, so...
You say a lot of things wrong, like Artificer. Just saying. House Deneth carries the mark of Sentinel.
Artificer.
The mark of Sentinel, allowing its members to dominate the field of personal protection. House Vidalis carries the mark of handling, making its members foremost in the business of livestock breeding and training. So yeah, that's. I mean, I've said it before. I think the dragon marks are technically there to offset the new races and the powers that they get, but man, that is a lot of bonuses that go to the humans as far as being able to go the dragon mark route. So, but
yeah, but I mean, we'll get into it. Well, that'll probably be next time, but we'll get into it when we start talking about the feats and the dragon marks specifically, because the aberrant dragon mark is something that can offshoot a lot of that too.
That's fair. But as you'll see, still not available to the new races, the aberrant dragon mark. So
I could have sworn it was, but no.
Nope, not at all. All right. You're up, Seraphis.
Okay. Changelings. Oh, by the way, I'm looking this way because this is where my second monitor is with the big screen of the PDF up.
You do you, man. It's all good.
Changelings are subtle. My mouth will words work in a minute. Changelings are subtle shapeshifters capable of disguising their appearance. They evolved through the union of doppelgangers and humans and eventually became a separate race distinct from either ancestral tree. They do not possess the full shape-changing ability of a doppelganger, but they can create effective disguises at will. This ability makes them consummate spies and criminals, and many changelings live up to that potential. Personality. In general, changelings are prudent and cautious, preferring to take risks only when they feel that their chances of success are good or the payoff is worth it. They appreciate the finer things in life and take great pleasure in the comforts of a wealthy lifestyle when they can obtain it. They avoid direct confrontation, preferring stealthy strikes and hasty retreats whenever possible. In conversations, they are soft spoken but have a gift for drawing out more information than the other party intends to reveal. Physical, physical descriptions. Changelings strongly resemble their doppelganger lineage, with only a passing nod to their human heritage. All changelings fall within the boundaries of medium size, usually standing between 5 and 6 feet tall. Unlike true doppelgangers, changelings do have gender in their natural form, although they can adopt any shape they like. Changelings have pale grey skin, and their hair is thin and fair. Their limbs are long and slightly out of proportion compared to other humanoids. Their faces have slightly more distinct features than a doppelganger's, including a hint of nose and lips, though the eyes remain blank white, and the rest of their facial features don't look quite as finished as those of a human.
So, I mean, it's a shape changer, folks.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's zoom in on it. There we go.
Okay, relations. Nobody with any sense completely trusts a changeling. But many people, however, have reason to do business with them. Most members of other races treat changelings with extreme caution. Dwarves have little patience for their deceptive and subtle manner. Halflings, on the other hand, enjoy matching wits with changelings, though they often rival in certain shady activities.
Folks, do forgive Seraphis. He's not real.
Hey, I'm just
giving you an excuse why you're struggling with reading.
I can't make my mouth do the words. Alignment. Changelings of all alignments exist, but most gravitate towards the neutral alignment. They focus on their own concerns without any meaningful regard for laws or morals. Many have their own code of honor, but are also fiercely independent. Some refuse to engage in assassination, while others embrace that path as the most perfect form of the changeling's art of deception. The changing lands. Changelings live wherever humans do in Corvair, blending in among them and living in the shadow. They are most commonly found in the large cities of Corvair, where they form the backbone of the criminal underworld, though many find more respectable work as entertainers, inquisitives, government agents, and sometimes adventurers. Changelings have no established homeland of their own.
So here's a question. If your race is known for being thieves or criminals of some kind, how does the government trust them?
The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
I mean, I guess that's an argument, but still, I don't know. It's just a thought I had.
hey, somehow people trust Kendar, and look at how Dragonlance is going.
Does anyone actually trust Kender? That's what I thought. All right, let's keep going.
Well, they haven't been wiped out yet, now have they?
It's because they keep finding their way into people's pockets.
Yeah, you can't hit the nuke. Okay. Sorry. Grim is distracting me. Oh god. Okay. Yep. Brain. Shut off. Don't know what I'm saying.
No worries. Let's keep going. Changeling lands.
No, we just did changeling lands, didn't we?
No, we just did alignment. Oh wait. No, we did. Sorry, I had it centered on the page. See, folks, this is why we're starting with a 20-year-old book. Give us time to get used to doing this.
Could you imagine tackling something newer? Wow. Dragon marks. Changelings never develop dragon marks, though they can mimic a mark's form, if not its power. Religion. Many changelings revere the deity known as the Traveler, one of the Dark Six. Others follow a personal philosophy of the perfect form, in which physical transformation is a mystical practice symbolizing spiritual purification. Wow, that was a lot of difficult words to get out in one fucking sentence. This philosophy is curiously amoral, and its practitioners include both assassins and saintly ascetics. Yeah. Language. Changelings speak Common, which allows them to move easily among humans and members of all other races. They often learn as many other languages as they can to facilitate a multitude of disguises. Names. Changeling names are usually monosyllabic.
Monosyllabic.
and, and seem to other races more like nicknames than proper names. In fact, changelings collect names and may go by entirely different names in different social circles. They make no distinction between male and female names.
So normally, like for names and stuff, I just kind of ignore it. It's like, okay, yeah, they've got like cool. These are names, but I think this is actually kind of interesting because they actually put a really cool role playing piece in here. You know, like literally telling a changeling player, dude, make a list of names. You know, and start changing them around depending on what situation that you're in. I think that is like some fantastic role playing opportunity right there. So,
like, there's a character in something, and I can't remember what it was. I feel like it'll probably end up being Firefly or something. And like, they've gone the whole show or whatever it was, where they're by one name, and then there's this one time where they're somewhere else, and they introduce themselves as someone else, and like, no one knows. Like, none of the rest of the usual crew or usual people of the show know where that name came from, but all of a sudden everyone else in the room is suddenly of great awe and respect to this person now. And I wish I could give more context to what show I'm trying to freaking think of, but I can't remember.
My brain wants to agree with you on it being Firefly.
It seems like a book thing, doesn't it?
Yes. I could see that happening. But again, it is still one of those things that, like, especially if you as a player, just like I said, you just have your list of names and then suddenly you throw it out for whatever reason in a roleplay session, and the rest of the group is like, wait, what just happened? Because, you know, is there backstory here? You know, I would say you probably want to throw it to the game master. You know, is this supposed to be like a background piece, or is this you're trying to deceive the person? You know, things like that. Again, I just think it's an interesting role play element that I wouldn't have picked up on out of a name section. So
you want me to start pronouncing these names now?
No, I think we can skip over the names.
Really, I want to give Tux a try.
No, it's Tux.
I'm going to say Tux.
No, in Eberron, the double O is an sound. I'm just making this up. I don't know.
Does that mean it's Yug because it's YUG?
Yes.
Okay. Adventurers. Changeling adventurers might be fleeing from past crimes, seeking revenge for a wrong done to them, or striving for spiritual perfection through the use of their shape-changing abilities. Others are driven to adventure through a simple lack of other palatable opportunities. Changelings who are not inclined toward crime or stealth often have difficulty finding steady work.
All right.
And now we have the mechanical stuff of the class. Did we want to go through that?
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
Remember, deep dive.
All right. So, changelings, racial traits. Changelings have the shape changer subtype. Changelings are humanoids with the shape changer subtype. Now, if you go into I think it's the monster manual, it has the description of what the shape changer subtype actually entails, because it's a whole thing.
We're not doing that in this episode.
Yeah, but I just wanted to give context. That
no, you're fine. Right? No, I'm just letting everyone know we're not switching books.
I mean, I could switch tabs, but medium. As medium creatures, changelings have no special bonuses or penalties due to their size. Changeling base land speed is 30 feet. +2 racial bonus on saving throws against sleep and charm effects. Changelings have slippery minds. +2 racial bonus on bluff, intimidate, and sense motive checks. Changelings are inherently skilled in deception and intimidation, and though they cannot actually detect thoughts as doppelgangers can, they can intuitively read body language and attitude with surprising accuracy. Natural linguist. Changelings add speak language to their list of class skills for any class they adopt. Minor change shape. Supernatural. Changelings have the supernatural ability to alter their appearance as though using a disguise self spell that affects their bodies but not their possessions. This ability is not an illusory effect, but a minor physical alteration of the changeling's facial features, skin color and texture, and size, within the limits described for the spell. A changeling can use this ability at will, and the alteration lasts until she changes shape again. A changeling reverts to her natural form when killed. A true seeing spell reveals her natural form. When using this ability to create a disguise, a changeling receives a +10 circumstance bonus on disguise checks. Using this ability is a full round action.
Okay. We can skip the languages.
Yeah. And the favorite class is Rogue.
I mean, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
All right. Dwarves. Dwarves are natural miners and smiths, and they control most of the precious metals found naturally across the continent. I had to get there. The continent of Corvair. Powerful dwarf families mint coinage and operate banks, issue letters of credit, hold loans, and collect debts. Dwarf bankers and merchants wield a great deal of economic power throughout Corvair. And they are well respected as a result. To an extent, they are also feared, since dwarves are known to be ruthless in collecting unpaid debts. For some reason, I do, but I don't see dwarves as bankers. I think that's just like the stereotypical, what dwarves are presented as. But then you could also make the argument that, like, from The Hobbit, in, what was it? The Misty Mountains? Erebor,
yeah, Erebor.
Right. Just it's full of treasure anyways. So,
and it also goes to their dragon mark as well, which we'll get to.
Right. Let's see. Dwarf lands. The dwarven homeland is the Mror Holds, a loose-knit federation of otherwise unconnected dwarf clans in the mountainous terrain in the east of Corvair. The dwarves have never had a unified empire and thus have never risen to the prominence of the elves or humans, or even the goblinoids, though their control of mineral wealth has always made them important allies of the greater powers. The Mror clans were subject to the king of Galifar before the last war, but they seceded from Karnath early in the war, making the greatest degree of unity and independence the dwarves, or marking the greatest degree of unity and independence the dwarves have ever possessed. The more holds are described in more detail starting on page 192, which we will get to in a few weeks, probably. All right. Dragon marks. The dwarven house Kundarak carries the mark of warding, enabling the house to protect its vast stores of wealth and provide security for businesses and precious goods. House Kundarak works closely with the gnomes of House Civis in the production and verification of important documents and the like.
And that is why they control the banking clans. Because when you can secure all the money in the world, you pretty much put yourself as the only people who can operate a successful banking business.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's like they've definitely put a lot of thought even into just what I would call a basic race. You know, why are they here? Why do they have this particular dragon mark? You know, they're not just, you know, I don't want to say they're trying to subvert expectations, but they're just trying to present something different. They're telling you, hey, these aren't your typical dwarves, even if there's still things that you remember. I mean, think about it. So the dwarven holds, they still live in the mountains. They still dig they still dig everything out.
I still diggy hole.
Right. But in this case, they're using it for, making these holds and these safe spaces, for storing and running their banks. So that is one thing that I like about Eberron. It's just they're taking the familiar, but giving it a different twist. So,
and House Kundarak, the original safe space people.
Yeah. All right. Elves.
All right. I'm taking this one.
Yes. I mean, I just did dwarves, so.
Oh, yeah. I just, since last time we established that I'm apparently a drow because I'm from down under.
Oh, that's true. Yes, yeah. Exactly.
I shall tell you about my people now.
Although drow, well, actually, drow get mentioned here in a minute. We're supposed to stop spoiling stuff and let it just naturally evolve. So it'll naturally evolve. Go ahead, man.
Elves. Many elves are regal and aloof, concerned with plans that cover the sweep of centuries, not the petty day-to-day affairs that occupy the thoughts of other races. A few elves are rather more down to earth. The elves of the dragon-marked houses have lived among humans and other short-lived races for centuries, and have adjusted their sense of time to accommodate. And the elves of Valenar have rejected many of the old ways of their kind in order to take a more active and expansionist place in the world. Now, did I offend you with the pronunciation of Valenar, or do you have a preferred pronunciation?
Look, you're talking. I'm naturally offended. It's fine. Keep going.
Elflands. The elves were born on the mysterious southern continent of Zendrick, where they were slaves of the giant kingdoms. Tens of thousands of years ago, elf slaves rebelled against their masters and eventually left Zendrick entirely. They settled in the fertile tropical rainforests of Aranel, a large island continent to the southeast of Corvair. Before the long reign of the Galifar kings, some elves decided to leave Aranel and emigrate to Corvair. These elves now live among the nations of Corvair and have integrated almost completely into human-dominated society. These civilized elves have little to do with either their ancestral Aranel society or the newly formed nation of Valenar, although some individuals may have more of a connection to their ancestral cousins than the average Corvair elf. During the last war, the beleaguered rulers of... Okay, how do you pronounce this?
I always said sire.
Okay. Well, I say Siri.
You know what? Let's have just pronounce it however you pronounce it, because I mean, I'm okay, folks. I'm too lazy to look up the quote unquote real answer.
Look, we'll split the difference and we'll say Siri.
No, I'm not setting off my watch again.
Sorry, before brought elf mercenaries from. Hold on, I'll just start that sentence again. During the last war, the beleaguered rulers of Sari brought elf mercenaries from Erenel into their lands. After 50 years of fighting on Siri's behalf, these mercenaries claimed a portion of Siri as their own, declaring that this land once belonged to the elves. A trading colony had been established on the mainland to trade with the empire of the hobgoblins long before the arrival of humans on Corvair. This land is now known as Valinor.
Okay.
Great. Valinor is described in more detail beginning on page 210 and Arenel on page 216. Drag marks. The elven houses of...
I'd say Fjarlin, but I don't know.
And Thorani. And Falani. Split during the last war, together carrying the Mark of Shadow with its powers of scrying and illusion. They control the business of espionage throughout Corvair, but they also operate more legitimate businesses related to art and entertainment. Since the split of the houses, and Thorani have become ruthless competitors as each strives for dominance in their field.
All right. And here's some... I'm not sure what they're doing with the elves in this art. Like,
see, I kind of have a theory about what they're going for, but it's, again, this is not a pretty design. It's not a pretty picture, because I'm guessing the one in the middle is meant to be a Valinor elf, right?
Right.
I'm guessing the one on the left is meant to be one of the civilized elves.
So Shadowrun?
And the one on the right is meant to be Earthdawn.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Is meant to be the...
Like a Zendrick elf? Arenel?
Arenel. However, I mean, yeah, because the Arenels still have a lot of that weird shit that the original elves from Zendrick had. But, man, I really want to go into that stuff that they put in half a paragraph there. Oh!
I mean, like, just give a little bit of it and tease it for when we finally get to talking about, the different lands.
They're Fae. They come from Thelanis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what happened was I'm pretty sure it was during the war of Dalcor.
Okay.
When the Dalcor invaded during the Age of Giants, the Fae spires used to travel between Thelanis and the material plane of Eberron. When the big cataclysm happened during the war, and the Korai got removed thanks to the Giants, several of the Fae spires got stuck on the material plane. And when the Giants realized that they could munch down on some Fae juice, they waged war against them. And the Spire of Stars, I think it was, or was it Spire of Dreams, was basically stuck on Zendrick, and the Giants like demolished it and enslaved everyone who was in there, or who was left alive.
So they weren't supposed to be here, but they got trapped, is what you're saying. Okay.
They frequently just would come and kind of visit the different mortal lands, and they just didn't pay attention because they're Fae, and go figure.
All right.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We'll dig into that more later, folks.
Gnomes come from the same genealogy as well.
Okay. So gnomes are elves?
kind of like how halflings are humans.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
We'll get into it, folks. All right. And all right, give me 1 second. Okay, so gnomes. Gnomes harbor a thirst for knowledge that can only be described as lust. They believe that every piece of information, no matter how trivial, may someday have value. Combined with a meticulous discipline, this love of knowledge makes gnomes superb librarians, accountants, bards, and alchemists. But this attitude has a sinister side as well. The same talents that make an accomplished bard can produce a skilled spy. And gnome society is filled with webs of intrigue and blackmail that often pass completely unnoticed by human eyes. Like the dwarves, the gnomes have no history of empire building, but their talents for diplomacy and espionage have allowed them to maintain their independence throughout the history of Corvair. In addition to their skill as alchemists, gnomes have mastered the art of elemental binding, which they use to power the ships and other vessels they construct in the dry docks and shipyards of Zalargo.
So we didn't really touch on it, but I think the drow would have something to say about the gnomes mastering that.
No, I don't think it's necessarily that they mastered it first, just that they have mastered it.
No. They pulled a Kender.
They pulled a Kender. They still had to learn it. Anyways, we'll get into it. Go, quit jumping ahead, Seraphis. I mean, geez. All right. So, let's see. Gnome lands. The gnomes' homeland is Zalargo, known for its stores of knowledge and schools of learning. Zalargo is also a significant trading power on the southern seas. The gnomes of Zalargo are expert shipwrights, and the mountains to the north and east hold fine gem mines. Dragon marks. The gnome house Civis carries the mark of scribing, which grants magical abilities relating to the written word and translation. These abilities facilitate the house's role in diplomacy, communications, and the production of secure documents. All right. I mean, sounds like gnomes.
I mean, it sounds more like those dastardly Kender.
Kendar. You are not a fan of the gnomes, are you?
As their redesign in the Eberron setting goes, I love to hate them. Is how I phrase it. I do actually really like their, like a lot of the other races, I really love their change in how they're brought to the setting.
Mm-hmm.
But I absolutely hate everything about what kind of quote unquote people they are. So, yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. I think it'll come out more as we go along.
I'm just saying, I love to like be borderline racist to them, basically.
You are bound and determined to demonetize this channel, aren't you?
Okay, well, I will apologize at the end of this to all the gnomes out there, okay?
That's fair. All right, let's keep going.
Okay, half elves. Oop, right, wrong page. There we go. Half elves are common in Corvair. The race is unique to that continent, where it grew out of the earliest mingling of humans and elves. Half elves can be as haughty as elves. Yeah, haughty. Though they are more able to work comfortably with humans. A few half elves, fascinated with death and the practices of their RNL ancestors, become
real
accomplished
quick
necromancers.
Real quick. Okay, we'll get back to that in just a second.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the first art that I've liked for what they've done for the character or for the race representations. Like the colors aren't too off, but they also don't look too weird.
Yeah, but they're still kind of doing that weird kind of like positioning with them, like head kind of tilted downwards so the face is kind of flat. Yeah. Also, it's kind of funny that we just finished mentioning that they tend towards being necromancers when they follow their Eberron ancestors, and yet we've got a statesman and a ranger as the examples.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, pick a lane, folks.
Others favor their human heritage more strongly, to the point of blending almost invisibly into human society. While the majority of half-elves belong to their own distinct race, elves and humans throughout Corvair still intermingle and occasionally produce offspring. Half-elf lands. Half-elves have no homeland, but can be found throughout the Five Nations. They are common in Under, Breland, and Thrain, and a few have migrated to Valinor to participate in the establishment and expansion of this new elven nation. Dragon marks. 2 of the dragon marked families are half-elven. House Lyranda carries the Mark of Storm and operates sailing ships and flying vessels, as well as bringing rain to farmlands. House Madani carries the Mark of Detection and offers services related to personal protection. Since the union of elves and humans sometimes produces half-elves that are not part of the true breeding race, a small number of half-elves can be found among the human and elf-controlled dragon-marked houses.
So, and that actually I think is an interesting thing to point out. Because one thing I do like is that at least with 3rd edition, you do still have a lot of like those quote unquote control rules, as opposed to like 5th edition where they've kind of opened it up and you can do anything and everything with everything. The fact that, okay, so there's house elves that are like dragon mark specific. And then Francois Marion in chat is like, I'll have Seraphis answer that in a second, Francois. But the fact that you can still have humans and elves creating new half elves, but then that half elf is not or can't, I mean, technically couldn't get a dragon mark, because unless they're part of just like the true breeding half elves, they wouldn't have access to it. If I remember correctly.
So at least as I understand it, if you don't come from the true breeding half elves, you're not going to pick up either the Mark of Storm or Mark of Detection, the elven dragon marks or human dragon marks as a half elf.
Oh, we're gonna have to dig into that when we get to the feat section. All right, so I think we've confused Francois, and I know I've gotten confused. And Francois, we're gonna blame Seraphis because he's spoiling content that will come later on. But is what it is. All right. So he says, but gnomes are elves and dwarves are gnomes, but dwarves are not elves.
Okay. So technically, gnomes are not elves. Gnomes and elves are both fae. Dwarves are not fae, thus dwarves are not gnomes.
Got it. Okay, so that's the thing. Is he's trying to link the dwarves and gnomes, but that's where it's breaking. But gnomes still technically aren't elves. They're like
No. That gnomes and elves both have the fae ancestry.
Right. My point was just going to be like they're distant cousins.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like halflings and humans are distant cousins.
I mean, when you just keep when the short guy just keeps marrying the short girl, and it just just shrinks. Anyways, so
Well, that's how we get pygmies.
that's how we get pygmies.
I will find creative ways to get you demonetized.
That's fair. Francois, I think he's making a joke about halflings being humans. Wait a second. What happened? Oh, I was supposed to keep going down. There we go. I'm like, oh, next the other column. Nope. So yeah, dwarves are dwarves, halflings are halflings, but halflings are to humans as gnomes are to elves.
Yes. They share a ancestry. That's all it is. Just like we share an ancestry with apes.
Theoretically.
Some people share an ancestry with apes.
Right.
We call these people politicians.
He says, Eberron just seems unnecessarily complicated. Francois, I think that's just Seraphis and not Eberron. You know, and I don't, it's not that complicated to me. I think Seraphis is just making it that way, but we'll see as we read through. I still like the setting; it's fun. So
it makes it more fun,
especially when you confuse our audience and drive them away. No, just kidding.
They're not being driven away. We've still got the same number of people. In fact, if I go really bad, we might get more people.
There we go. All right, so half-orcs. Half-orcs are rare on Corvair. Since humans and orcs have never lived in particularly close proximity, in the small scattered human communities of the Shadow Marches, however, half-orcs are more common, and they can also be found in the western parts of the Eldine Reaches and Drome. The orcs of the Shadow Marches live much as the humans do. It is a rustic life, to be sure, but a far cry from their existence as ruthless barbarian hordes in the distant past. Half-orcs are just as civilized as the humans of the region and often look almost human despite their size and strength. Which, you know, I actually like this art. I think this does well. Kind of gives that barbarian look to it. You know, but not, you know, like completely wild like a normal orc.
Yeah, I mean, I'm out of all the examples, minus the dwarven example.
Yeah, the dwarves weren't bad. We didn't focus on that one.
Yeah. I mean, I say that one's not bad, but if you actually compare it to like art of the Eberron dwarves later on, of the Moorhold dwarves, it definitely clashes with their aesthetic as well. But this one of the half-orcs definitely has more in common with the style that you will see in other stuff like the City of Stormreach or Shan or things like that. It does actually have more in common with the theme of their look throughout the setting.
Yeah, Francois says, I like my half-orcs more green and monstrous mutant, which I actually kind of agree with. Like if you think about it, like, how did we get half-orcs? There's really only one way if you think about, like, especially through 3rd edition, like, how orcs were presented. They were, like, literally, you know, like, barely civilized, you know, barbarians. So clearly something happened during the last raid, you know.
Well, I can kind of imply some things in how it happened in Eberron, but I can't go into details because, again, you keep complaining about getting demonetized. So,
well, no, right, but no, I'm just talking about D&D 3rd edition in general, adding in the half orc. That, you know, like, I mean, okay, I don't know. It's a subject that I'd rather not have in my games, but here we are.
See, in my home game, I've used Half Orc as being essentially an alternate version of regular orcs, like a basically the example I use in my games is that half orcs are orcs from the material plane, whereas orcs as presented in the monster manual were orcs from the shadow plane, and they frequently come through and raid, but they're not natives to the plane, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was how I was doing it in 5th edition, but I mean that edition sucks ass. So.
Fair enough. All right. Were you reading Half Orcs or was I?
You were.
You were, okay. Let's see. We did the Half Orc lands. All right.
No, we haven't done the.
Oh, we didn't do it. No, we didn't do lands. Half Orcs do not have lands of their own, but live in both human and orc communities in the Shadow Marches, the Eldine Reaches, and Drome. Some have even found a place among the other nations of Corvair, especially in the larger towns and cities. Dragon Marks. House Tharashk is made up of half orcs and humans, and it carries the mark of finding. The house's business focuses on investigation and prospecting for dragon shards. So, obviously, they've managed to get a bit more organized, such that they develop a dragon mark. Yeah, I still don't think half orcs necessarily should have been a player race, but that's me. And I'm clearly 20 plus years too late, so we'll deal with it.
Would it help you if they had a sombrero?
Right?
Just put some shade on that, shall I?
Yeah, no, we'll leave that one right there, but you are not wrong, sir. So, anyhow, all right, let's see. Francois says, I think it should have more monstrous downside than it does for the strength and size you get. Seems like a win for human genes. How come everyone's not a half orc at that point? Game rules? I mean, literally, that's all I can think of. So, anyways, let's keep going.
Halflings. In their homeland, halflings are nomads who ride. Sorry. I love everything about the halflings in Eberron, and this is. I'm going to get giddy and occasionally laughy, so I apologize. In their homeland, halflings are nomads who ride domesticated dinosaurs across the wide plains. The heritage of the nomad also serves more urbanized halflings well, and halflings have established themselves across Corvair as merchants, politicians, barristers, healers, and criminals. The tribal nomads of the plains can sometimes be found in the cities, but often the halflings of the cities blend in with the rest of the population and display only the occasional reminder of their nomadic roots. Halfling lands. Halflings originated on the Talenta Plains and still thrive there, continuing the nomadic traditions they have practiced for thousands of years. Technically subject to Galifar before the last war, many halflings of the Talenta Plains spread to the extent of civilization, and halflings are now found in every city in Corvair. They bring their glib tongues and quick minds to whatever trades they choose to follow. The Talenta Plains are described in more detail beginning on page 202. Dragon Marks. The halflings of House Galanda carries the Mark of Hospitality, granting its members magical abilities related to food, drink, and shelter. Members of the house operate inns and restaurants, prepare food for royalty, or conjure food for their fellow nomads in the Talenta Plains. House Jurasco carries the mark of healing, enabling its members to provide curative services in cities throughout Corvair.
Francois says, so halflings are Native American pygmies on dinosaurs.
Yes, and I love it. I love it. It's great. And once we get up to, I can't remember whether it's in this book or Magic of Eberron or Races of Eberron, but there's a picture. There's several pictures of halflings on the backs of dinosaurs, and I love every little bit of it. It is so awesome.
And I mean, it is like the only issue that I have with it is the fact that they set it in Corvair. Like Corvair is supposed to be like the only really developed continent on the planet. However, there's still this area where we have these nomads riding dinosaurs. Okay, you couldn't put it like, I mean, I realize that sort of like spreads everything out, but I mean, you couldn't put it like on Sarlona or Zendrick or something where
Arganessen would be a good one.
Or Arganessen, if the dinosaurs are related to dragons somehow. Again, something to make a little more sense why, like, okay, these guys haven't really civilized per se. They're still just these nomads. And they're riding dinosaur. I don't know.
Hey, don't you want dino riders in your Eberron?
Do they get lasers and missiles and accompanying toys?
Let's see. Do they get lasers? Well, they have wonder depths, so they can dual wield wands attached.
That's
to their...
fair.
Yep. And missiles. I mean, do you count like launching delayed fireballs?
I mean, I guess, but Francois, I'm not sure if they've got a picture of one of the dinosaurs in the book, but remember, Eberron is based on, like, literally it was designed for D&D 3.5. So literally just get out the monster manual and look up dinosaurs, and whatever they have pictured there, that's what they've got. So,
and that actually applies to all 5 monster manuals for 3.5. Any dinosaurs in those are applicable to the Eberron setting,
right?
According to Keith Baker, anyway. So.
Sure, but technically, it is just the first monster manual that is guaranteed to be in Eberron.
Yep.
So, all right. Let's keep going. The Kalashtar are a compound race, incorporeal entities from the alien plane of Dalcor, the region of dreams, merged with human bodies and spirits to form a distinct species. They were once a minority among the Kori, the native race of Dalcor, hunted and persecuted for their religious beliefs. Thousands of years after the Kori invaded Eberron and the connection between their plane and the material plane was severed, the Kalashtar were the first of the Kori to discover a means to reach the material plane once more. Fleeing persecution, they transformed their physical forms into psychic projections that allowed them to enter the material plane and possess willing humans. Today, new Kalashtar are born, not possessed, neither spirit nor human. They are a new race that breeds true. It took 300 years for the other Kori to discover a similar means to psychically project their spirits out of Dalcor and possess human bodies. Let's see here. Forming the Inspired, while leaving their own bodies behind, much as mortals project their minds to Dalcor when they dream. For 1,500 years now, the Inspired in their vast kingdom of Redra have continued to persecute and oppress the Kalashtar. Which also doesn't make a whole, like, why do the Inspired get to have their own kingdom and the Kalashtar, who've been here longer and are breeding true, are still running persecuted?
Sarlona.
Yeah, right. Which if we ever get to the Secrets of Sarlona book, we'll probably learn more about.
Yeah.
So,
well, basically, Riadra is able to maintain its presence on Corvair, basically because they've got the backing and arm of Sarlona to reinforce them at any time. So,
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Personality is a true hybrid of human hosts and Kori spirits. The Kalashtar possess keen intellects but are not ruled by logic. They seek the perfection of their minds and spirits, often to the exclusion of any physical pursuits. They are generally warm and compassionate, but their manners and ways of thinking are alien to the native races of Eberron. They are more interested in psionics than in the magic that pervades Corvair, and often lace their discourse with esoteric terms such as matter, kinetics, and ectoplasm. The Kalashtar are outcasts from their home plane and can never return there, not even in dream. The combination of life in exile and a dreamless existence makes the Kalashtar slightly inclined towards madness, and some have speculated that the Kalashtar devote themselves to psychic and physical discipline in order to keep themselves safely sane. When I was reading through this, I thought was interesting. Since they do come from the plane of dreams, this whole thing of they don't dream. I think it could be difficult a bit to put into a role play sense, but it's still just like a really interesting. It's still just a really interesting, development. So,
I would imagine that would be really easy to play if you've got bipolarism.
That's fair. All right, physical description. Kalashtar appear very similar to humans, but they have a grace and elegance that makes them seem almost too beautiful. They are slightly taller than the average human, and their faces have a slight angularity that sets them apart from the human norm, but these deviations only make them seem more attractive. Let's see. Relations. Kalashtar are born diplomats and relate fairly well to individuals of all races, except, of course, the inspired. They relate best to humans, with whom they share the greatest physical similarity, but some Kalashtar find themselves strongly drawn to other races instead. They oppose the inspired in all ways, both within Redra and beyond its borders, and likewise oppose any group or force that corrupts or degrades mortal souls. Alignment. Kalashtar are generally lawful good. They combine a sense of self-discipline that borders on the ascetic with a genuine concern for the welfare of all living things, or at least their souls. Let's see. Kalashtar lands. The Kalashtar homeland is a region of Sarlona called Adar, a land of forbidding mountains and hidden fortresses in the southeastern portion of the continent. Even in Adar, their numbers are small, and the number of Kalashtar found in Corvair is much smaller still. However, they can be found in many of the largest human cities. The largest Kalashtar population in Corvair is in the city of Sharn. Dragon marks. Kalashtar never possess dragon marks. If we haven't said it already, you will notice, folks, that the new races never get access to dragon marks. Religion. Kalashtar do not follow gods, but they have their own religion called the Path of Light. The center of this belief system is a universal force of positive energy, the Kalashtar called Ilyana, or the Great Light. Through meditation and communion with this force, the Kalashtar seek to strengthen their bodies and minds for the struggle against the forces of darkness that threaten all life on Eberron. Though Ilyana is not a deity, its few clerics draw power from the Path of Light. A greater number of devout followers of the path are scions and psychic warriors. Let's see.
Yep. Halfling picture.
Yep. So if you were wondering what halflings look like, there you go. This I actually think was kind of interesting. The fact that it's it does have some like it. I want to say quote unquote Mongolian aspects, because those are really like the only nomadic people that I can still think of, on Earth.
Tibetan.
But still,
no, not Tibetan. Well, yeah, kind of the Tibetan Mountains region as well is a bit like that.
Yeah, definitely it has some of that look to it as well. So it just I like this. This was a good piece of art. So, all right.
Language.
Zoomed in too much. Let's see. Language. Kalashtar speak Kor, the language of the Kori, and the common tongue of their homeland. Kor is a hissing guttural tongue more suited to the alien forms of the Kori than their humanoid hosts. It has its own written form, a flowing, elegant script with many circular letters. Kalashtar names have much in common with the name of their people. They are 3 to 5 syllables long with a combination of hard and hissing consonants. Male names end with one of the masculine suffixes. Female names use the feminine suffixes, which you can find here. Adventure.
Milk, Tush, or Kashtai, Shana, Tari, and Vakri.
Good job.
Like me, these made-up names are easier for me to pronounce.
There we go. Yeah, see, when you're made up, other made-up things are easy. All right, adventures. Every Kalashtar enters adulthood facing a fundamental choice. Try to live a normal life as a persecuted exile in Adar, or take up a more active role in combating the inspired in the world. Not surprisingly, many Kalashtar choose the latter option and live a life at least bordering on that of the adventurer. Most Kalashtar adventurers are motivated primarily by their hatred of the inspired, but a few, primarily those advanced along the path of light, are driven by their compassion for all living beings and their desire to fight the darkness in whatever form it takes. All right, Kalashtar are medium creatures because, again, they're basically humans, as you can see. Base land speed is 30 feet, +2 racial bonus on saving throws against mind-affecting spells and abilities and possession. The Kalashtar's dual spirits help them resist spells that target their mind. +2 racial bonus on bluff, diplomacy, and intimidate, because they are masters of social interaction, influencing others through their commanding presence and subtle psychic powers. +2 racial bonus on disguise checks made to impersonate a human, because they basically are. Kalashtar sleep, but they do not dream. As such, they have immunity to the dream and nightmare spells, as well as any other effect that relies on the target's ability to dream. Naturally psionic, they gain 1 extra power point per character level, regardless of whether they choose a psionic class. And part of that is because of the next one, psi-like abilities. Mind Link once per day. This ability is like the power manifested by a wielder of 1/2 the Kalashtar's hit dice. If you are not using the expanded psionics handbook in your game, use this description of the Mind Link power. You forge a telepathic bond with another creature within 30 feet. You must have an intelligence score of 3 or higher. The bond can be established only with a willing subject who therefore receives no saving throw and gains no benefit from spell resistance. You can communicate telepathically through the bond even if you do not share a common language. No special power or influence is established as a result. Once the bond is formed, it works over any distance, although not across planes, but only lasts for 1 round per character level. This is a mind-affecting ability. So automatic languages and favored class of Scion. Remember, Eberron is to try and drag all of D&D into one setting and sort of make it make sense. So, yeah. If you hate psionics, maybe not use Kalashtar. Let's see, real quick, since we're between sections, Game Master says, I use these as more NPCs. Like when the players would sleep, they would inhabit a Kalashtar, and that's the body they would roam around in when in dreams. Interesting. All right, and then one thing, because it's technically not related to the races, but it is. So dragon marks are... so they're interrelated to the setting. Basically, the setting has a lot of what they like the draconic prophecy, there's supposed to be more to the world than just it exists. And so the dragon marks are supposed to be a manifestation of that. All of the original players' handbook races have access to at least one dragon mark. And essentially it gives them a spell-like ability, but we'll get into that probably next week when we actually start covering feats and stuff. So, you'll learn more then. All right, let's keep going.
Oh, though, just quickly, the Kalstar artwork with that watercolor design, I really, really like because it gives it that dreamlike quality, which is ironic.
Yes, you know what? Let me zoom out and that is not what I wanted. There we go. Yeah, no, I really agree with you. It does have that sort of, ethereal, just like you said, just like dreamlike quality to it. Like I said, it's basically a human, but they still manage to make it look a little bit different, a little bit mysterious.
Mm.
So,
And as I said, what I really like about it is that the irony of it looking very dreamlike when they themselves can't dream.
that's fair. That's fair. I mean, they're from the plane of dreams, so
Yeah.
we'll go with it.
The hellscape that is. Alrighty, shifters. Shifters, sometimes called the were-touched, are descended from humans and natural lycanthropes, now nearly extinct on Corvair. Bastards. Shifters cannot fully change shape, but can take on animalistic features, a state they call shifting. Shifters have evolved into a unique race that breeds true. They have a distinct culture with its own traditions and identity. Personality. The personality and behavior of shifters are influenced by their animal natures. Many are boorish and crude, while others are quiet, shifty, and solitary. Just as most lycanthropes are carnivores, shifters have a predatory personality and think of most activities in terms of hunting and prey. They view survival as a challenge, striving to be self-reliant, adaptable, and resourceful. Physical description. Well, this is going to be a weird one. Shifters are basically humanoid in shape, but their bodies are exceptionally lithe. They often move in a crouched posture, springing and leaping while their companions walk normally alongside. Their faces have a bestial cast with wide, flat noses, large eyes, and heavy eyebrows. Which is kind of funny because that's kind of how 5th edition, I think 4th edition too, kind of designed the hobgoblins.
Mm-hmm.
So their faces have a bestial cast with wide, flat noses, large eyes, and heavy eyebrows, pointed ears, and long sideburns in both sexes. Their forearms and lower legs grow long hair, and their hair on their heads is thick and worn long. I can relate to that. Relations. Many races feel uncomfortable around shifters, the same way they feel around any large predator. Of course, some grow to appreciate individual shifters despite their natural aversion, and halflings in general get along with them. Really, I never would have guessed. Excuse me, may I ride you?
I was going to say, they're trying to turn them into the next dinosaurs.
Yes. For their part, shifters are accustomed. See, this is why I love everything about the halflings. They're just so enjoyable. For their part, shifters are accustomed to distrust and don't expect better treatment from members of the other races, although some shifters try to earn respect and companionship through acts and deeds. Alignment. Shifters are usually neutral, viewing the struggle to survive as more important than moral or ethical concerns about how survival is maintained. Shifter lands. Shifters have no land of their own. Beside being descended from human stock, they live in human lands. Unlike changelings, however, shifters often live in rural areas away from the crowded spaces of the cities. They are almost commonly encountered in the Eldian Reaches and other remote areas that can be found in all the nations. Many shifters earn their way as trappers, hunters, fishers, trackers, guides, and military scouts. Dragon marks. The fact that none of the dragon marked houses include shifters cements their place outside the mainstream of society. Religion. Most shifters incline towards the druid-based religion of the Eldin Reaches, believing in the divine power of the earth itself, the elements, and the creatures of the earth. Those shifters who revere the pantheon of the sovereign host are drawn toward the deities Balinor and Baldre, while other shifters follow the traveler. Shifters rarely worship the silver flame. I wonder why. Language. Shifters speak common and rarely learn other languages. Names. Shifters use the same names as humans, often ones that sound rustic to city dwellers. Adventurers. Moving from the rugged, self-reliant life of a shifter trapper or hunter to an adventuring life is not a big step. Many shifters find themselves embarking on adventuring careers, often after something happens to disrupt their everyday routines. A monstrous incursion into their village or forest, for example, or a guide job gone sour. And shifter racial traits. Shape changer subtype. But there's too many S's here. Shifters are humanoids with the shape changer subtype. Ugh. +2 dexterity, -2 intelligence, -2 charisma. Shifters are lithe and agile, but their fundamental bestial nature detracts from both their reasoning ability and their social interaction. Medium. As a medium creature, shifters have no special bonuses or penalties due to their size. Shifter base land speed is 30 feet. Shifting. Supernatural. A shifter can tap into her lycanthropic heritage to gain short bursts of physical power. Once per day, a shifter can enter a state that is superficially similar to a barbarian's rage. Each shifter has one of 6 shifter traits. Characteristics that manifest them. Oh my god, this sentence is awful. Characteristics that manifest themselves when a character is shifting. Each shifter trait provides a +2 bonus to one of the character's physical ability scores, strength, dexterity, or constitution, and grants some other advantage as well. Shifter traits are described in the following section. Shifting is a free action and lasts for a number of rounds equal to 3 plus the shifter's constitution modifier. If a shifter trait or other effect increases the character's constitution modifier, use the newly improved modifier, which, wow, that can skyrocket. A shifter can take feats to improve this ability. These shifter feats are described in Chapter 3, Heroic Characteristics, and also in Races of Eberron as well. Every shifter feat a character takes increases the duration of shifting by 1 round. For every 2 shifter feats a character takes, the number of times per day she can tap into the ability increases by 1. So a character with 2 shifter feats can shift 2 times per day instead of the usual 1, and each use of the ability lasts for a number of rounds equal to 5 instead of 3, plus the shifter's con modifier. Shifting, though related to and developed from lycanthropy, is neither an affliction nor a curse. It is not passed on by bite or claw attacks, and a shifter can't be cured. Shifting is a natural ability for the race. Low light vision. Shifters can see twice as far as a human in starlight, moonlight, torchlight, and similar conditions of poor illumination. They retain the ability to distinguish color and detail under these conditions, which I think that might be a little bit better than normal dark vision, I think. For the ability to continue to distinguish color.
Well, well, dark vision lets you see in the dark. Low light vision does still need some sort of light source. But in this case, maybe it is like, it's been a long time since I played 3rd edition. So, don't quote me on this.
I'll put my GM on the weekend.
but maybe it is a little bit better than normal low light vision because it does get color and detail. But also, I mean, don't forget, I mean, these are supposed to be, half animals, so, having like dwarves have low light vision. Actually, I think like most every non-human race in D&D seems to have some sort of, either low light or dark vision. And so to give them a little bit of a boost, makes sense to me.
Yeah. So continuing. +2 racial bonus on balance, climb, and jump checks. A shifter's animalistic heritage enhances many of her physical skills. Automatic languages, common, yada yada. Favorite class, ranger.
For obvious reasons.
Personally, I would have said ranger and druid, but yeah.
No, because I would say like with druid, you're more of a contemplative sort. Whereas if you're a shifter, you're more active and engaged. That's how I would look at it.
Yeah, but also Druid is based around wisdom as well as the Ranger's spell effects being based around wisdom too. So a good secondary option for shifters is a Druid.
That's fair. I'm just saying, like, I can see Ranger as a more favored class.
Oh, yeah. With their dexterity and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, just based on the description for the shifter.
Yeah.
So.
Now we're going to go through the shifter traits. I swear this is... of that thing that we were talking about that you want to do at the end of all this, this is the part that has given me this is why I've been putting off the shifter, because all this, man. All this. Anyway.
Well, we can talk about that after, but there's a very simple answer for it. So, anyways, let's burn through these.
Shifter traits. Each shifter has one of the following special traits, which is selected when a character is created and cannot be changed thereafter. Oh, look at that. You can't change it thereafter. Beast Hide, Supernatural. While shifting, a Beast Hide shifter gains a +2 bonus to Constitution and Natural Armor that provides a +2 bonus to AC. Longtooth, Supernatural. While shifting, a Longtooth shifter gains a +2 bonus to Strength and grows fangs that can be used as a natural weapon, dealing 1d6 points of damage plus an additional +1 for every 4 character levels she has, with a successful bite attack. She cannot attack more than once per round with her bite, even if her base attack bonus is high enough to give her multiple attacks. She can use her bite as a secondary attack, taking a -5 penalty on her attack roll while wielding a weapon. Cliffwalk. Supernatural. While shifting, a Cliffwalk shifter gains a +2 bonus to dexterity and has a climb speed of 20 feet.
Real quick with the Longtooth. So it says use her bite as a secondary attack, taking a -5 penalty. Why wouldn't you just go, like, I would make this argument to a GM. Use that as my primary attack, and then once I've got you at a bite, then just take a dagger and, stab. Me as a GM, I would say, cool, you get no penalty on the dagger strike because you're already biting them.
Given how 3.5 works, I can understand where they're going with this, because conversely, with a ranger, you could equally grapple the target and then start biting at them and keep them in the grapple.
That's true. Yeah, so you do your grapple attack first.
Yep.
Actually, you probably have to do your grapple attack first.
Yes.
Before you can get close enough to bite.
Yeah, and then when, they pick up a trait like Bull Rush, being able to, essentially pounce on someone, doing a grapple, and then doing a bite attack, and then, you've got them restrained so that another character can, come over and, stab them, and then you can continue biting them.
Right.
You can...
All right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, you have convinced me. All right, let's keep going.
Razor Claw, Supernatural. While shifting, a Razor Claw shifter gains a +2 bonus to Strength and grows claws that can be used as natural weapons. These claws deal 1d4 points of damage plus an additional +1 for every 4 character levels she has with each successful attack. She can attack with 1 claw as a standard action or with 2 claws as a full action, as a primary natural weapon. She cannot attack more than once per round with a single claw, even if her base attack bonus is enough to give her multiple attacks. She can attack with a claw as a light offhand weapon while wielding a weapon in her primary hand, but all her attacks again. All her attacks in that round take a -2 penalty. Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, I mean I could see that because I mean you're practiced with your weapon, and then you're trying to like swipe at someone with a claw, isn't necessarily, like it's going to be thrown off, like as far as like balance and technique and whatnot. But then also as you get high enough level, it's not going to matter because your attack bonus will be so good.
Yeah, but yeah, but on that, if the ranger is leaning, if the razor claw shifter is leaning into that with their ranger skill, imagine them having a spiked gauntlet. So their primary attack is the spiked gauntlet, and then their offhand attack is their natural claw attack, and then
Sure.
artificers have an infusion to improve natural weapons by up to +5, I think it is, and then doing the same thing with the gauntlet, you could dish out a lot of damage in those early levels.
Right. There are definitely options here.
Oh yeah. Long stride supernatural. While shifting, a long stride shifter gains a +2 bonus to dexterity and a bonus of a +10 feet, and a bonus of +10 feet to her base land speed.
So 2 extra squares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if that's 100 feet if they're hasted.
And
I mean, that's pretty cool.
I mean, it's a long stride shifter. They're gonna be fast.
Yeah.
So all right.
What do you think their lycanthrope ancestor was? I think it was just a wolf or
Cheetah.
no, yeah, cheetah. Yeah. Okay, wild hunt. While shifting, a wild hunt shifter gains a +2 bonus to Constitution and the scent ability. This ability allows the shifter to detect approaching enemies, sniff out hidden foes, and track by a sense of smell. A wild hunt shifter can identify familiar odors just as a human does familiar sights. A wild hunt shifter can detect opponents within 30 feet by sense of smell. If the opponent is upwind, the range... Oh man, jeez. The range increases to 60 feet. If downwind, it drops to 15 feet. Strong scents, such as smoke or rotting garbage, can be detected at twice the ranges noted above. Overpowering scents, such as skunk musk or troglodyte stench, can be detected at triple normal range. These stronger scents block other scents, so they can sometimes be used to confuse or hamper this shifter trait. When a wild hunt shifter detects a scent, the exact location of the source isn't revealed, only its presence somewhere within range. The shifter can take a move action to note the direction of the scent whenever the shifter comes within 5 feet of the source. She pinpoints the source's location. This is basically a sniffer dog.
Right. Yeah. This would be your wolf.
Yeah. I think several of these are very confused about what they could be, really.
That's true. But
like, really, they could all be wolves.
That's true.
I mean, Beasthide, you ever seen like a pack of wolves go against a bear? I mean, they could take a hit.
Well, right, but if we want to assign one animal to each, like beast hide, I would probably go with bear. Long tooth would obviously be like a tiger or a lion. The Jonathan Frost said a rabbit for the long stride, although I'm not necessarily sure about how common were rabbits were. But you are right that all of these could trace back to a wolf at some point. Anyways.
While shifting, a wild hunt shifter who has the track feet can follow tracks by smell, making survival checks to find or follow a trail. The typical DC for a fresh trail is 10, regardless of the surface that holds the scent. This DC increases or decreases depending on how strong the quarry's odor is, the number of creatures producing the odor, and the age of the trail. For each hour that the trail grows cold, the DC increases by 2. This ability otherwise follows the rules for the track feet. Shifters tracking by scent ignore the effects of surface conditions or poor visibility. When not shifting, a wild hunt shifter gains a +2 bonus on survival checks due to the lingering effects of the scent ability.
Yeah, I don't want to highlight anything. That's so my thing was like especially like if you're going to do a one shot for Eberron and you want to include a shifter, my main thing would be just give it something combat related. That's easy enough. Don't overthink it. But I think I do like that the fact that they've given a lot of different options. It's not like, oh, every shifter is this. The fact that we're sitting here arguing over which animal would be best represented, by the particular type of shifter, does make a lot of sense. So
okay, so if we're going to give a shifter a trait then that's combat related, is it beast hide, long tooth, or razor claw?
Beast hide is the easiest. Long tooth and razor claw are good. However, we already established that there is going to be some complications, especially if you're trying to get a new person to try it out. And especially like if you're a new GM, okay, well, so it's it's like we just talked about with the long tooth and the secondary, so if the bite is the secondary attack, okay, well, wait, what if I want to use it as the first? Can I then negate the penalty on something else because I've already bit them? So beast hide is going to be the easiest, I would say, because bonus constitution, which lets their shift last longer, and then bonus AC, which makes them harder to hit. So, and put it as like a ranger, so it's a secondary fighter, not necessarily the guy that's up front taking the hits, but can take some extra hits. So,
well, yeah, because obviously you'd put a Warforged fighter up front because clearly that's tanking a tank.
Speaking of the Warforged, built as mindless machines to fight in the last war, the Warforged developed sentience as a side effect of the arcane experiments that sought to make them the ultimate weapons of destruction. With each successive model that emerged from the creation forges of House Cannith, the Warforged evolved until they became a new kind of creature, living constructs. Warforged are renowned for their combat prowess, their size, and their single-minded focus. They make steadfast allies and fearsome enemies. Earlier Warforged models are true constructs. Some of these remnants of the last war appear in monstrous varieties such as the Warforged Titan. Personality. The Warforged were made to fight in the last war, and they continue to fulfill their purpose with distinction. They fight fiercely and usually without remorse, displaying adaptability impossible for mindless constructs. Now that the war has ended, the Warforged seek to adapt to life in this era of relative peace. Some have settled easily into new roles as artisans or laborers, while others wander as adventurers or even continue fighting the last war despite the return of peace. Warforged appear as humanoids, molded from a composite of materials: obsidian, iron, stone, darkwood, silver, and organic material. Though They move with a surprising grace and flexibility. Flexible plates connected by fibrous bundles make up the body of a Warforged, topped by a mostly featureless head. Warforged have no physical distinction of gender. All of them have a basically muscular, sexless body shape. In personality, some Warforged seem more masculine or feminine, but different people might judge the same Warforged in different ways. The Warforged themselves seem unconcerned with matters of gender. They do not age naturally, though their bodies do decay slowly as their minds improve through learning and experience. Unique among constructs, Warforged have learned to modify their bodies through magic and training. Many Warforged are adorned with heavier metal plates than those their creator originally endowed them with. This customized armor, built-in weaponry, and other enhancements to their physical form help to differentiate one Warforged from another.
Okay, just quickly. I think it's in Races of Eberron, if we ever get to that. That line, the Warforged themselves seem unconcerned with matters of gender. That's going to be hilarious.
I mean, they're robots, so I mean, I can see them not being concerned about it, but if they pull a next generation Data and Tasha Yar, I'm gonna be really annoyed.
No. Have you seen Bicentennial Man?
Yes.
Robin Williams?
Yeah.
That gives them that kind of option.
Oh. Well, make this successful so we're willing to keep doing this, folks, and eventually we'll get to you said Races of Eberron?
I believe it's Races of Eberron, yeah.
All right. See, it won't be the next book that I cover, but we'll get there eventually. Because, anyways.
Oh, right. Yep, yeah. It's Races of Eberron.
Cool. Yep. All right. Relations. As the Warforged strive to find a place in society for themselves after the last war, they simultaneously struggle to find ways to relate to the races that created them. In general, the humanoid races of Corvair regard the Warforged as an unpleasant reminder of the brutality of the last war and avoid dealing with them when possible. In Thrain and Karnath, the Warforged are still seen as the property of the military forces that paid to have them built. And most Warforged in those nations serve as slave labor, often used to repair buildings and roads damaged or destroyed in the war. Throughout the rest of Corvair, they have freedom, but sometimes find themselves the victims of discrimination. Hard-pressed to find work or any kind of acceptance, most Warforged, not being particularly emotional creatures, accept their struggles and servitude with equanimity. There's a word. But others seethe with resentment against all other races, as well as those Warforged who only desire to please their, quote, masters. Let's see. Real quick, I want to address this one. Could you take the basic stats of a Warforged and apply them to an Aranel elf? Undead ancestor type character, but maybe like newly dead.
No, because that is a deathless.
Right. And I believe it, but I believe they basically have rules for that, right?
Yeah. The deathless.
Yeah. Sometimes they reference something but don't give you rules, so I was just making sure for clarification purposes.
Yeah. I think you're basically, for the deathless, you're basically using a elf with a undead subtype, I believe, or undead template. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Alignment. Warforged are generally neutral. They were built to fight, not to wonder whether fighting is right. Though they are perfectly capable of independent thought and moral speculation, most choose not to wrestle with ethical ideas. Seraphis can relate. Warforged originated in Sire before its destruction and have no homeland. Most of them have dispersed across Corvair, laboring as indentured servants in Korth, Atur, and Flamekeep, or struggling to find work and acceptance in Sharn or Korenberg. A few congregate in the Mournland, attempting to build a new Warforged society free from the prejudice and mistrust of the older races. I know we'll get into it, but I believe the Mournland is essentially toxic to like regular people, correct?
It can be over prolonged stay, but what makes it particularly dangerous is all the effed up stuff that happened after the morning. Like there are literally living spells in the area that make it just completely dangerous to be around.
Right, but my point was just more that like a human there, like like yes, there are dangers. I mean, but going into the jungle is a danger.
Yeah.
You know, but I just mean like if you're there and you don't run into any other dangers, there are still just negative effects that hit you from the Mournland if you're a regular person. Reason I'm bringing that up because like essentially the Mournland is becoming the Warforged homeland because I don't believe it affects them the same way it affects normal living creatures, correct?
There's no signs that anything in the Mournland affects the state of the Warforged. However, the only real example that we have of someone's prolonged existence in the Mournland of a living creature is of someone who was captured by what's it
The
called?
Lord of Blades.
No, the Grey Death. I think that's what his name is. It's a ancient white dragon that got caught in the event.
Got it.
And it's now this sickly grey, maybe undead, completely insane ancient dragon that is convinced that this dude who he's captured is his old friend.
Oh.
And whether it's because he's been in the Mournlands so long, or whether it's because like something the dragon is emanating this the Grey Fog, that's what his name is. Whether it's something that this dragon is emanating, it's kind of unknown because he's kind of gone from being a captor to being allied with the dragon, which is weird.
Dude's got nothing weird in Eberron.
Serious case of Stockholm syndrome that guy has. So
sure. All right. Well, we'll get into that later. All right. Religion, just as most Warforged are not inclined to align themselves with any particular moral or ethical philosophy, few show much interest in religion. Some Warforged have found a kind of answer to the questions of their existence by taking up the cause of one religion or another, but these remain a small, if rather vocal minority among their kind. A larger number gravitate to a messianic figure called the Lord of Blades. This powerful leader gathers... Okay, next page. Oh, here's a Warforged, by the way. And real quick, right here, like this little piece isn't like that's supposed to be something, right? Like all Warforged kind of have this little keyhole in their chest. Am I misremembering that, or
not necessarily. It depends on the design. Azum doesn't have one.
Okay, I'm probably misremembering it, but I could have sworn there's something like
the head. On the other hand, all Warforged bear a crest, that sigil, and it does seem to vary depending on what type of Warforged, or maybe what generation of Warforged it is.
Oh, yeah. So that's like its model number.
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. We will come back to this page because I do want to read through that one.
Oh, yeah.
All right. All right. So Lord of Blades, a cult-like following of disaffected Warforged by preaching a return to the Mournland and rebellion against the weak-fleshed races. Warforged speak common since they were designed to communicate with their mostly human creators and owners. Warforged do not name themselves and only recently have begun to understand the need of other races to have names for everything. Many accept whatever names others see fit to give them, and Warforged traveling with humans often are referred to by nicknames. Some Warforged, however, have come to see having a name as a defining moment of their new existence, and thus search long and hard for the perfect name to attach to themselves. Adventuring is one way that Warforged can fit into the world, at least as well as any adventurer ever fits in. In the wilds of Zendrick, the ancient continent of secrets, Few people care whether you were born or made, as long as you can help keep your companions alive. A fairly large number of Warforged choose an adventuring life to escape from the confines of a society that didn't create and at the same time engage in some meaningful activity. All right, so I think this is a good spot to come up and read this section. Do you want to read this or do you want me to read it?
You can read it. I just want to quickly point out that picture in this section here. That is a House Cannith creation forge. This is the type of things that
this is where the Warforged are borned.
Yes, essentially. And despite how it might look, it's not actually the central section that they come out of. It's the circular plates on the ground around it that they're coming out of.
So these right here.
Yep.
Oh. Okay, that's fun to know.
Yeah.
All right, so the nature of the Warforged. Before the death of King Jarrett and the start of the last war, the master crafters of House Cannith turned their creation forges to the task of churning out new constructs for a new age. Constructs designed for labor and industry soon led to experiments with models developed for exploration and defense. When King Jarrett saw the possibilities inherent in the work of House Cannith, he began to outline his plan to protect Galifar from the threats he imagined were gathering all around the kingdom. King Jarrett was growing more and more nervous about the dangers he believed were posed by the monster hordes of the Western Reaches, the mysterious elves of Erenel, the barbarians of Arganessen, and others from beyond his realm. At the king's urging, House Cannith began to experiment with constructs designed for war. Merix de Cannith, one of the lords of the house, developed the first version of the Warforged. It was a remarkable achievement, but Merix believed he could create an even better soldier. When King Jarrett died and his scions divided the kingdom, each faction had a complement of Warforged fighters devoted to its cause. By the second decade of the conflict, Merix had introduced near sentience into his created warriors. It was Merix's son, Eberron, who made the breakthrough that resulted in the Warforged becoming living constructs. The first Warforged that were truly alive emerged from creation forges 33 years ago. House Cannith sold Warforged fighters throughout the last 30 years of the war to anyone who could afford them. Breland, Thrain, and Sire boasted the largest armies of Warforged on the continent, and most of the various competing factions had at least a token force of Warforged fighting for them. By the final years of the war, the Warforged had become thoroughly associated with the ever-escalating conflict. As part of the Treaty of Thronehold, the document that ended the last war, two important decisions regarding the Warforged were agreed upon. First, the status of the Warforged changed. They were no longer property, they were people. Second, House Cannith was forbidden to produce any new Warforged. The creation forges were shut down and destroyed. Some nations, such as Thrain and Carnath, sidestepped the property clause through indentured servitude. Many people regard the Warforged with suspicion, anger, or fear, but the living constructs have begun to find a level of acceptance they never imagined attaining when the war ended. Warforged do not reproduce. The vast majority of Warforged roaming the continent of Khorvaire are veterans of the last war. The oldest among them date back to the original production run 33 years ago. The newest emerged from the creation forges just over 2 years ago in the last days of the war. Older Warforged tend to be fighters or barbarians. The more recently created Warforged, especially those less than 5 years old, are more inclined to try different class options. Two sources of new Warforged currently operate in secret. Merix de Cannith, grandson of the original creator, continues to run an illegal creation forge in the bowels of Sharn. Here, he continues his grandfather's and father's experiments. Sometimes he places the new Warforged in his employ, sometimes he sells them to special clients, and sometimes he sets them free to see how they choose to survive in the world. A good source of Warforged adventurers. To preserve his secret, Merix is circumspect and runs the creation forge only sparingly. The other source hides within the ruins of the Mournland, where the renegade Lord of Blades controls the remains of the Cannith forge that once operated in Sire. He hasn't really mastered the process, and the forge was damaged in the disaster that destroyed the nation. So he can only produce new Warforged slowly and in small numbers. And even then, some of the Warforged who emerge from his creation forge show sign of defects and mutations. So I think that's interesting. You know, like mutant Warforged. What would that be?
Oh, there's pictures of them. They They look kind of sad. I'll put it that way.
They look kind of sad.
Like in a pity kind of way.
Like this creature should not have been created. Mistakes were made. Okay. Yeah, no, I think I think it's a really, really interesting just a story development to have the Warforged. The fact that they, essentially it is a slave race, but it's but then also being able to, to have have them emerging with their freedom. How do people react to them? Obviously gives a lot of American Civil War vibes to it. So,
yeah. I'll just say this for now. There's an interesting conspiracy theory that exists both in the community and in the world setting itself about the true nature of the Lord of Blades.
Okay.
He might not be a construct, or if he is a construct, he might not be one construct.
Yeah.
Like, there might be a group of them who keep taking up the mantle.
Oh, okay. Sort of like what's a good example? The only one I can think of is like the Primarch of the Alpha Legion in Warhammer 40,000, who was technically twins, but then like every member of the Legion claims to be the Primarch. And so like no one truly knows who the Primarch is. So
the other one is that it is ironically completely opposite that, which is the Lord of Blades isn't actually a Warforged, it's someone in a suit.
Oh, we're gonna have to get into that later. but there's some stuff for you all to chew on. All right, so racial traits. Living construct subtype. They are constructs with a living construct subtype. A living construct is a created being given sentience and free will through powerful and complex creation enchantments. Warforged are living constructs that combine aspects of both constructs and living creatures as detailed below. Let's see. Features. As a living construct, a Warforged has the following features. It derives its hit dice, base attack bonus progression, saving throws, and skill points from the class it selects. Traits. A Warforged possesses the following traits. It has a Constitution score, does not have low light vision or dark vision, is not immune to mind affecting spells and abilities. It does have immunity to poison, sleep effects, paralysis, disease, nausea, fatigue, exhaustion, effects that cause the sickened condition, and energy drain. A Warforged cannot heal damage naturally. Unlike other constructs, Warforged are subject to critical hits, non-lethal damage, stunning, ability damage, ability drain, and death effects or necromancy effects. As living constructs, Warforged can be affected by spells that target living creatures as well as by those that target constructs. Damage dealt to a Warforged can be healed by a Cure Light Wound spell or a Repair Light Damage spell, for example, and a Warforged is vulnerable to Disable Construct and Harm. However, spells from the Healing subschool and supernatural abilities that cure hit point damage or ability damage provide only half their normal effect to a Warforged. Let's see. The usual physical construction of Warforged makes them vulnerable to certain spells and effects that normally don't affect living creatures. Warforged takes damage from heat metal and chill metal as if he were wearing metal armor. Likewise, a Warforged is affected by repel metal or stone as if he were wearing metal armor. A Warforged is repelled by repel wood. The iron in the body of a Warforged makes him vulnerable to rusting grasp, so do not run into a rust monster. The creature takes 2d6 points of damage from the spell. A Warforged takes the same damage from a rust monster's touch. Spells such as Stone to Flesh, Stone Shape, Warp Wood, and Wood Shape affect objects only, and thus cannot be used on the stone and wood parts of a Warforged. A Warforged responds slightly differently from other living creatures when reduced to 0 hit points. A Warforged with 0 hit points is disabled, just like a living creature. He can only take a single move action or standard action in each round, but strenuous activity does not risk further activity. When his hit points are less than 0 and greater than -10, a Warforged is inert. He is unconscious and helpless and cannot perform any actions. However, an inert Warforged does not lose additional hit points unless more damage is dealt to him, as with a living creature that is stable. So, automatic stability, that's nice. As a living construct, a Warforged can be raised or resurrected. A Warforged does not need to eat, sleep, or breathe, but he can still benefit from the effects of consumable spells and magic items such as Hero's Feast and potions. Although living constructs do not need to sleep, a Warforged wizard must rest for 8 hours before preparing spells. +2 Constitution, -2 Wisdom, -2 Charisma. They are resilient and powerful, but their difficulty in relating to other creatures makes them seem aloof or even hostile. Again, makes sense. They are medium creatures. They move 30 feet. Composite plating. The plating used to build a Warforged provides a +2 armor bonus. This plating is not natural armor and does not stack with other effects that give an armor bonus other than natural armor. This composite plating occupies the same space on the body as a suit of armor or a robe, and thus a Warforged cannot wear armor or magic robes. Warforged can be enchanted just as armor can be. The character must be present for the entire time it takes to enchant him. Composite plating also provides a Warforged with a 5% arcane spell failure chance, similar to the penalty for wearing light armor. Any class ability that allows a Warforged to ignore the arcane spell failure chance for light armor lets him ignore this penalty as well. So this, I think, is interesting. So, like, I get, okay, can't wear armor. There's the armor isn't made for it. Spoiler alert, folks, there are ways to get bonus armor. But the fact that it says that it occupies the same spot as a robe, so you can't work around it by putting on magic robes. But then they show art of, like, I know there's a Warforged wizard out there who's wearing wizard robes. You know? So it's like, can you pick one? I mean, and on top of that, it's cloth. Tailors can make clothes for people of any size. Why not a Warforged?
Yeah, but we're talking specifically about the about how this aligns with 3.5, remember? So it's also obliged to go by the body slot system.
Right.
So
I get it. I just thought it was funny.
Yeah. So in that regard, the image I sent you on Discord of Book, technically that's not a robe, that is his mantle that occupies the shoulder slots.
Got it. Okay. I'm gonna pull that up later because my windows are not cooperating.
That's all right.
We'll bring it up when we see it again. Let's see. Light fortification. When a critical hit or sneak attack is scored on a Warforged, there's a 25% chance that the critical hit or sneak attack is negated and damage is instead rolled normally. A Warforged has a natural weapon in the form of a slam attack that deals 1d4 points of damage. So he has heavy fists. It's like a Hellboy fist. That's how I would equate it. Automatic language is common. Favored class fighter, a multi-class Warforged fighter. Warforged fighters class. Okay. Favorite class fighter. Anyways, I don't need to read all.
Yeah.
All right. So we are running a little long. So we're just actually going to cover the races today. If you're still watching. Next week, we will get into classes. All right. Take other races for us.
Other races. Corvair is a complex region where members of many different races may meet as equals and find themselves on the same side of a conflict. The goblinoid kingdom of Dagun, the orc populace of the Shadow Marchers, and the monster realm of Duram are significant players in the political scene of Corvair. It is only fitting, then, that hobgoblins, goblins, bugbears, orcs, gnolls, and a variety of other creatures commonly viewed as monsters, might appear as player characters in an Eberron campaign. All the rules you need to play a character belonging to one of these races are found in the Monster Manual and Dungeon Master's Guide. Cultural information about many monstrous races appears in Chapter 7, Life in the World, particularly in the sections concerning Duggan, Drum, and the Shadow Marchers. Dragon player characters are not recommended in an Eberron campaign, since the motivations and outlook of dragons are far removed from what is familiar to the humanoids of Eberron. Similarly, Sahujan and Drow are not ideal races for player characters, at least if you're playing in Corvair. You're muted.
Correct. I mean, it's like any other campaign. If you have a good story, you have a good reason for it, work with your game master or dungeon master, I should say. But yeah, it makes sense why they are not recommended.
Although, even though Dragons of Eberron, which covers Arganesson, does provide a lot of new stuff to play a dragon in Eberron, I would still say that you probably shouldn't try to push playing a dragon in Eberron because there's way too much tied into.
Yeah, exactly. There's too much going on. Like again with the mythology and how the dragons are involved in it. Yeah, that would not be an ideal thing to do. So, all right. So we'll go through this part real quick as well. Region of origin, character in an Eberron campaign is never just a human or a dwarf. He is a human from Thrain or a dwarf from the Moorholds. Humans from Thrain have all the same game statistics as humans from Breland or Redra, but they differ in important cultural ways. In the context of the game, these cultural differences are expressed in the choices of class, skills, feats, and prestige classes that characters from different regions make. In addition, a character's region of origin can dictate his selection of animal companions if he is a druid or ranger. This section describes the most common choices of game-related options for each known region of Eberron. The countries and regions of the world are described in much greater detail in Chapter 7. These choices are not intended to be restrictive, since exceptions always exist to such general rules. They simply offer guidelines for making a character seem like a representative of his native culture. Character's race does not necessarily have any bearing on his region of origin. An elf character, for example, might come from an ancient Arenal or from Valinar, or he might come from a long line of elves that live in the city of, I'm going to guess, Sharn.
Sharn, yep.
Yeah.
In Breland.
And thus have more in common with humans of Breland than with other elves. Members of all the common races are regularly found in the cities across Corvair, mingling with every other race, and at least to some extent taking on the characteristics of the host culture. All right, so we're going to go back and forth with this. We're just going to look at the region, and it's a little bit of background. If you want to know the classes, skills, feats, and prestige classes, feel free to check out the Eberron campaign guide for D&D 3.5.
Adair. The residents of Adair are commonly human and Kalishtar. Their opposition to the inspired rulers of Riadra defines their culture, and many of them have learned effective techniques for resisting psionic powers.
All right. Arenal. The natives of Arenal are all elves. They revere their dead ancestors to the point of keeping them close as deathless creatures. Oh, bye, Grandma. Hi, Grandma. You're up.
Arganesson. Tribes of human barbarians inhabit the northern coast of Arganesson, the continent southeast of Corvair, and nearby islands of Saran. They view the dragons of that continent as divine patrons and protectors, and incorporate draconic elements into their clothing and culture.
Okay. Ondair. The people of Ondair, mostly human, but intermingled with other common races, value both education and agriculture.
Breland, the industrial capital of Corvair. Breland is best known for the cosmopolitan city of Shan, the largest settlement on the continent, and one of the major ports alongside its southern coast. Breland is also the gateway to the mysterious continent of Zendrik.
Sire displaced. The natives of Sire are a people without a home since the utter destruction of the nation in the last war. Before the war, Sire was a peaceful land with a long tradition of artisanship. Now the survivors live throughout Corvair, especially among the remaining 4 nations of ancient Galifar, Aundair, Breland, Karnath, and Thrain, and in Zilargo and the Mror Holds.
Dagun is a nation of goblinoids, though some members of other races. Many unsavory characters and some veterans of the last war live in the larger towns and cities.
The Demon Waste is a savage region whose only humanoid inhabitants are fiercely barbaric human tribes and orc bands dedicated to keeping travelers out of the wastes and all the land's abominations in.
Droam, monsters are the main residents of Droam, from minotaurs to medusas. Some humanoids live in isolated communities in Droam. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, folks. All right. The Eldine Reaches are a strange mixture of untouched wilderness and pastoral farmland, inhabited primarily by humans, half-elves, and shifters.
Karnath. The mostly human residents of Karnath are among the most sophisticated and cultured people of Corvair. They played a major part in the last war and are still reeling from their losses. Karnath makes extensive use of corporeal undead as soldiers, still marching to the command of Karnath's king and generals.
Spoiler alert, vampires, folks.
Yeah.
The Lazar Principalities. The residents of the Lazar Principalities are primarily human fishers, sailors, and sea raiders, though a scattering of members of the other common races can be encountered throughout these islands.
The Mournland. Few natives of any race live in the Mournland, but at least one small community of Warforged makes its home in this blasted land. Non-Warforged natives in this area have Sari as their region of origin.
The Mror Holds are the ancestral homeland of the dwarves.
Wow, riveting.
I was going to say
that. Maybe they could cut back a little next time.
Lots of information there.
Kabara. The humans of Kabara consider themselves to be the true heirs of the great culture of the kingdom of Galifar, undivided. For all that, their land is a rough and dangerous frontier.
Redra. Most natives of Redra are human, though the rulers of that land are the inspired. Redran humans are an oppressed majority, forced to work and dream for the benefit of their masters. Unlike the Kalashtar of Adar, the inspired seek out and eliminate humans who manifest any trace of psionic ability.
The swamplands of the Shadow Marches are home to a nation of orcs. Humans are a significant minority in the towns of the Marches, and half-orcs are common.
The Talenta Plains, homeland of the Halflings, are a wild region of rugged grasslands. The nomadic Halflings of the plains use various dinosaur breeds as mounts and beasts of burden. Halflings native to this region treat the Sharash, the Tanget, and the Talenta Boomerang as martial weapons rather than exotic weapons.
Thrain is a theocratic nation of humans and other races devoted to the Church of the Silver Flame. Its culture and civilization are refined and elegant, and its people are known for fine craftwork and being up themselves.
Valinar, in contrast to the ancient kingdom of Erenal, Valinar is a young, expansionist, and aggressive elven nation. Originally mercenaries brought to Corvair to fight in the last war, the elves of Valinar are renowned horse breeders and riders seeking to make a new nation separate and apart from the stoic Erenal. Elves native to this region treat the Valinar double scimitar as a martial weapon rather than an exotic weapon.
And Zilargo. Zilargo is the native land of the gnomes of Corvair. Known for its libraries and universities, Zilargo is a storehouse of legend and lore. Zilargo gnomes are recognized as great shipwrights, and their secret process for harnessing the power of elementals is the envy of the rest of Corvair.
All right. All right. Now to finish it off, it does have a vital statistics section. Basically age, height, weight, etc. They have to. They have 4 new races. They have to cover them somehow. So, all right. So that is chapter 1. I thought we might be able to get through chapter 2, but we are already over 2 hours, which is I mean, it's fine. It's within tolerable limits, but it is right on that line for what I was hoping for. So, anyways, that was like that. I think is again one of the cool things about Eberron. I know Francois was saying like, oh well, it just seems too complicated, but I think they gave enough to make all the races feel like they belong and still have some little bit of mystery to them. Why are what do they do? What makes them special, as opposed to it's another batch of humans. Now you've got at least 5 batches of humans from Galifar, plus then everything else mixed in. Any final thoughts, or otherwise?
Well, maybe next time they can cut down on like just talking about the dwarves. I mean, that was a lot. That was a lot to get through.
I mean, I mean, the Mror holds are interesting, but really, did we need that much information?
Oh, actually, did we actually show off the mountain?
I don't think that picture's come up yet.
No, it was in that section we just went through. Because I don't think we did.
Oh, the mountain with the face?
Yeah, that's Lord Mror. The ancient, dwarven king.
So that's a mountain.
Yes.
Okay, I think every time I've ever looked at that, I thought it was just a piece of like just a cloud or something.
Nope, that is actually the side of a mountain. The 12 clans that we know of today, or the great ones, they were actually exiled from the original kingdom, and they made that to exonerate themselves from their crimes of being exiled. But when they returned to the hold, it was empty, and no one knows what happened.
Well, yet another mystery put into Eberron. So, all right. But yeah, no, that was a lot to get through. That is like, and I thought we were moving too, but anyhow,
we cut back on a lot of the side talk too.
Yes, we did. So, all right. So last thing. All right. If you are still here in chat, yes, you do have to be present to win. Just put a 1 in chat if you would like to be added into the giveaway for the painted Warforged with what was it again?
Oh yes, custom grip staff with a Kenneth Goggles modified monocle. That the staff is outfitted with disintegrate charges.
There we go. Yes. So, if you would like to win that,
so not a sniper rifle.
Like here it is. I'll finish the base. I promise, folks. I ran out of time. I was trying to read. So, anyhow, I guess there's no one else. So then let me present this screen. Ta-da! And we will spin. Let's see who gets it. Of course it is. All right, so from the hilt, I know he is not in here at the moment. But I will reach out to him. I'm not going to make this for these first few, I'm not going to make them present to win. Maybe we'll attract some new viewers that way. So, Anyhow.
I thought for a good second it was going to land on Hunger, and I was going to be like, Hunger again.
Yeah. No, technically, From the Hilt is the only one who has won more than once for the member giveaway, but he gave one to Hungar because Hungar was gifting lots of memberships. So there's that. All right. Well, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Appreciate your time. We will be back next week to cover classes of Eberron, and depending on how much time we have, we'll probably get started with character features such as feats and stuff like that. So,
well, to be fair, the only real new class that we have to cover next week is the Artificer. So
that's true. Anyways, we'll see what happens. But other than that, thanks for watching, folks, and we will talk to you next time. Goodbye.